All right, hey there, and welcome to this episode. So today what we're going to talk about is the idea of learning how to stop fighting against your thoughts, right? And why you need to stop fighting against your thoughts. So before we do that, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Cotty, and I am the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. And just want to give you guys a heads up that next month in August 2020, depending on when you're listening to this or watching this, that we're going to be running a 3-day live workshop. And again, I'm really excited about that. And if you head over to restoredminds.com, you can learn a little bit more. There's a link where you can pre-register. And again, so it's going to be 3 days live with me, and we're going to be going deep into this stuff on the recovery process and all sorts of good stuff. So anyways, just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Now, back to the idea of to learn how to stop stopping your thoughts, right? Or stop fighting against your thoughts. So one of the biggest mistakes that we as a collective, and I'm saying people that wrestle with OCD and anxiety, or really, any kind of anything on the stress-related spectrum, do is that we fight and resist and battle with our own minds. And this can be in the way of overanalyzing. It can be trying to figure something out that, really you can never get a clear answer to. It can be rumination. It can be all these different, really mental behaviors that we end up doing. And so the problem is that especially with OCD, people have these intrusive thoughts that just kind of invade their mind. And again, the thoughts are ego dystonic, meaning they know they don't reflect what they want. They are invasive, right? Meaning they don't want these thoughts in their mind. And what will happen is then this battle will ensue. So the person will try to replace thoughts. They'll try to push away thoughts, suppress thoughts that they don't want, and really just get into this never-ending battle of the thought happening and then fighting against the thought. And it can really, take up your entire day if you let it. And, all the way back from like in the 1980s, there was a book that was written by Dr. Daniel Wegner, called White Bears and Other Unwanted Thoughts. And the premise of the book is interesting because it is, I think he pulls from an experience with Leo Tolstoy, where, the whole premise was that, as a punishment, I think it was Tolstoy that was told to stand in a corner and until he could not think about a white bear, something to that effect. So the idea is that he would stand in the corner, and by trying not to think about a white bear, what would happen? The white bear thought would pop up more and more and more and more. So obviously that created a lot of problems, because the more and more you try not to think about something, you're inadvertently creating that thought in your mind, and therefore perpetuating it and then overreacting to the thought, and then that perpetuates it even more. So Dr. Wegner did a bunch of studies on this back in the 80s, and it was the same exact premise, right? He was just like, okay, so everyone would get in a room and he'd be like, okay, for the next 10 minutes, don't think about a white bear. Don't have the thought of a white bear pop in your head. And people would have to tally, if they had the thought of a white bear pop up. And what they found is the more and more they tried not to think about a white bear, guess what happened? The more and more they thought about white bears, the more and more they had images of white bears. Interestingly enough, they even reported the idea of having dreams of white bears, right? And then they would have thoughts of the white bear pop up outside of this study. So the harder and harder you tried not to think about something, it was, essentially the paradoxical effect took place. So people with OCD get really, and anxiety get really caught up into like, well, why am I having these thoughts? Why is my mind keep producing this thought if it's not important? And the answer is because you tried to suppress it, most likely, right? That's at least research would indicate, right? And if you want, and you can go ahead and read the book if you want to. I mean, I've read it, and you can dive into that world if you want. But again, even then it becomes compulsive, because you don't want to try too hard to fight against or try to figure this out, right? But I'm sharing this because it's important to understand that when you're trying not to have thoughts in your mind, you're inadvertently going to create them, which is going to create a reaction, which is going to create more of them and perpetuate this cycle. So what do we do about that, right? The opposite is also true, right? So if you're indifferent, right? So many of us have probably had the thought of a white bear in our mind, right? And if you haven't yet, just try not to think about it right now, and you'll have it. But I mean, you can visualize a white bear in your mind, and the thing is that for most of us, that thought is indifferent, unless you have like this extreme phobia or fear of polar bears. Then the thought of a white bear probably doesn't, impact you one way or another. What would be called like an indifferent thought. And when we are indifferent towards a thought, we don't do anything about it. It just kind of pops up into our conscious awareness, right? We're aware of the thought, right? We are the one that is aware of thoughts, right? So that separation is crucial to understand as well. But, at the end of it, it doesn't do anything. We just kind of go on with our day. And if the thought pops up again, we still just kind of let it be there. So the same is true with our intrusive thoughts, right? If we're trying not to have them, we're going to create more of them. It's just, and I'm sure you've realized that to this point in your journey, if you're struggling with this. So the question is like, okay, well, what do? We learn to become more indifferent and allowing of the intrusive thoughts. That is the work of ERP, acceptance commitment therapy, what I teach with the AAA response. Why it's so effective is because by changing our reaction, dare I say, how we respond to the thought, right? Because reacting and responding is different. Changing how we respond to thoughts then creates more space for the thought to surface and pass. And the more indifferent we are and we learn to become to the thought, what happens is our brain starts treating it like it's something serious that we need to worry about or fear or, even need to produce. And that's through the whole conditioning aspect. So I hope this makes sense because if you start to see, that fighting and trying to stop and battling your thoughts is not working, if you've kind of come to that conclusion, then the question is, well, what do you do next? And on a very high level idea, right, is that we learn to become more indifferent, more allowing, more accepting, and we stop fighting the thoughts. Now, it's easier said than done, and that's why, we teach techniques and very specific strategies in our Taking Back Control program, because if it was like just that simple, then that's all you would need, right? But again, it's not necessarily that simple. I mean, while it might be simple, it's not easy to do, especially if you've been in a state where you've been battling thoughts for a long time. So hope that helps. And, if you're looking for resources and help, please check out restoredminds.com. There's a link right down in the notes here that will give you a free guide, as well as some more information on the upcoming live workshop as well. So that's it for today. Hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.